That was my.
All right, let's call things to order this morning at 8:37. I don't think we have anybody zooming in, so okay, so we don't need to do that. Calling the meeting to order. Let's have a roll call, please.
Member Pachalski,
Here.
Vice Chair Chapman, Member Hart, Member LaPlante. Here. Member Chavez. Here. And Chair Rutledge.
Here. I'm not going to take too much time on Chairman's remarks this morning, but I did notice that the Olympic medals are from recycled material. So I wanted to make sure everybody knew that. And we have a guest this morning, Walter from Lake County with us for a conversation that will be ongoing about trash hauler contracts in unincorporated areas. Lake County is doing that. I would like to do that as well. So if I could have a motion for approval of minutes from the June 15th, 2021 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. Parent committee approval. Do we?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. No items for that. Next on our agenda is a discussion on the 2022 proposed budget for the environmental programs. Joy.
Good morning. All right, Michelle is going to be putting on the screen our proposed general fund budget. What it is, it's important to note that the environmental division budget is in 2 locations. Our main operations and salaries come from the building and zoning budget. It was moved under their purview probably 4 or 5 years ago. And then our programs are under the general fund allocations. So just a reminder, categories of responsibility, recycling, EPA enforcement, cool DuPage, and we support the campus sustainability projects. Next slide. So some of our accomplishments with our general fund allocations, as well as in 2020, we had the one-day hazardous waste event that was under the CARES Act funding. So we've got the regional HHW facility, document shredding, the new assigned recycling program, which we hope to launch on a regular basis. We did a compost bin sale, tire recycling event with Illinois EPA. We continued our electronics recycling program, and then we expanded our textile recycling program. So we're at 61,000 pounds there. So we're super excited. Next slide. So anticipated revenue, we get revenue from the Illinois EPA for our enforcement grant, and then we do get revenue from the city of West Chicago for the DuPage transfer station. That totals about $223, and that funding goes into the building and zoning budget and offsets again the salary and our operational expenses. We look to spend about $209, so hopefully we will have a little bit of a balance surplus this year, but not a whole lot. Next slide. So this is our typical general fund ask. So the regional HHW facility, environmental education program contract, which is with SCARES, our document shredding, and environmental summit, and then co-sponsorships. That last item enabled us to do some of our additional events this year, the sign recycling and such. So 246 is our normal ask, our typical ask. We go to the next slide. With some interest in increasing some of our programs with the sign recycling program, and then we have been investigating launching a propane tank recycling program. We are looking for an additional $5,000 in that line item to increase those programs. For the last couple of years, our document shredding co-sponsorship funding has been tapped out and then some. We've had a waiting list. So we're looking at adding about $1,500 to that. And then Chair Rutledge has been interested in an alternative to the dishware and the cafeterias throughout the campus. We've been talking with dining services, and that cost to replace the foam will be an annual ask of between $200,000 and $300,000. So that is also a new project initiative that we are asking for. Again, it's input differently into the budget.
Can I ask a question? Can you please explain what you would replace that with, what that would cover?
Of course. Thank you. Let's see. They have sourced out paper, fiber, biodegradable bamboo, and sugar cane. With $200,000 being on the low side, so that would probably be the paper or fiber. And then the 300,000, if we were to go up to that, that would be the sugar cane.
And, oh, sorry.
Oh, so go ahead.
Okay. Now, is that for all, is that used for every single, I haven't eaten in the cafeteria, for every meal, or is that only the to-go?
That would be anything in 421 and the 505 cafeterias. Both are in a to-go format. It would replace the clamshells, and then it would enable them to do. They years ago did a pilot project with strictly using plates for folks eating in the cafeteria. That did not go over very well.
That's what I wanted to ask
So
about.
everybody kind of naturally went back to the clamshell just for the transportation aspect.
So can you explain why it didn't go very well?
Some people didn't want to, we're telling them it was to go just to get that
Got
other
it.
container.
Okay, so they
They-
wanted a to-go
They
container.
wanted a
Okay.
to-go container to carry it back to their table here. So no matter what, they were asking for that to-go container.
Is it possible to do a hybrid so that there is, reusable, normal plates? And then if people specifically request a to-go?
Not in 421. Facilities management looked at that years ago, and due to the configuration of where the cafeteria is, they cannot do the venting in the 421 cafeteria for a reusable dishware to wash it.
Oh,
It would impact the vegetative roof that's already in existence.
got it.
I don't know that we've ever done. Do you remember, Nick, if we've ever investigated 505? I don't know that we have the ability.
We
to
have
either.
not, and I know that it's, part of it is the clamshell allows the food to stay warmer
Right.
longer. And so it's more the prep and time and everything. So there are some difficulties, but obviously if this is an initiative that the environmental committee wants to pursue, we'll pursue all options with the dining services.
Thank you.
In JPS, we were discussing a $14 million budget deficit. And this is a good program, and it's $200,000 or $300,000. Could we defer it to 2022 just to get past our budget deficit? Because I think we're going to have to tighten our budget somewhere. I do support this, but is one more year going to be that devastating? So my thought would be, let's defer this a year because of the budget deficit that everyone's going to have to tighten their belt on. Is that something that
We have, and that's, I think every committee will hear that today, is right now we're looking at a $14 million budget deficit, as was reported in the special call finance last week. Obviously, every single department, every single elected official is going to have to go in and drive their budget down to fill that hole. There's no way around it. And the board would figure out what priorities you guys want to focus on and new initiatives or maintain old existing programs. So that'll be at the discretion of how you guys want to proceed.
I don't know. I just think that, after looking at a tough decision, I do support this, but I think right now is not the time. I would suggest we defer to 2022. We do one more year. Maybe we can go more of a hybrid that you're suggesting, but that would be my suggestion is that great thing, but not the right time. We defer to 2022, and we've done our part on the budget deficit. And then if there's alternatives for a hybrid, we can explore it at that time. That's my personal opinion, is we have to make tough decisions. This is one, and we're not saying no, we're just deferring it to 2022 due to the deficit.
Thanks, Don. I'll just say that my late husband always taught me that if you don't ask, you don't get. So if it gets stripped out, then I'll deal with that. But I do want to keep this in our budget request. I've routinely been seeing restaurants that are switching at least from the number 6 foam clamshells to number 5 that is recyclable in bins at the curb. So, if we need to work on little bits and pieces of this, then we can work through that. But again, I'm of the mind that if you don't ask, you won't get it all. So
I understand. I'm saying, my position is we should defer it. So is that an opinion or consensus of this committee to defer to 2022? We see where we go, or we do something else?
I'd like to see it done in stages. So I think to
Baby
Sheila's
steps.
point, I think maybe we don't bite off the 200,000. But I think if we're not moving toward our environmental concerns, we get bit by the cost later in the future, our community does. So I think that some investment in this program now, maybe not the full 200, but to your point, Lynn, and to yours, Don, too, I appreciate the fact that we're all gonna have to tighten up, but I think there can be stages that are covered. So maybe we take one portion, like drinkware or just the clamshells or something this year and bite it off.
Thanks, Amy.
If we deferred 150,000, I mean, that would be substantial. Then that's 50 to do going on, and we're going to do this thing in 2022. I'm just saying we have to make a tough decision, and this is something that's new, and we can do a little bit of it, like you said, and then defer, and then done our part for the budget deficit. So if this wants to be instead of 200,000 or 300,000, we do 50, and then we're going to do it in 2022 once our budget's back in order. That might be appropriate.
Well, I hope you have that crystal ball to see
I
that our
do.
budget's
It's
going to
always crystal
be
ball.
balanced in 2022 as well, Don. So, Nick.
Maybe I could make a suggestion, because a lot of good ideas here. I mean, if it's the will of the committee, we take it from 200 to 50, we focus on maybe the most volume that we can get for 50. Maybe we go from a 6 to a 5 in what we're recycling. We work with, can we substitute maybe some permanent dishware? We do what we can for 50. It'll give us some good, maybe test cycles to see what works and what doesn't. And we might come back to you next year and say, it doesn't work for these reasons. We're not going to continue it, or it was a great success at 50. We want to expand it. And maybe if that's okay, we go from 200 to 50. We've done our part with the budget deficit, and then it gives Joy just a kind of a pilot program to work with the dining services to see how it works.
Joy, do we have a window that we could get a little bit more information about how we could break this down into those baby steps that we could present next month and make it, because I'm open to that. I understand that we're under a budget constraint, but like I said, the crystal ball doesn't guarantee that we're going to have a balanced budget in 22 either.
We are committed to this project. I just think we're being very fiscally responsible, and we're doing something that's good for the environment, and we're improving it, and I think we're all committed to this. It's just this is not the time, so let's defer it being to that 155 day anymore.
And my position would be, if this is not the time, how bad does it have to get before it is?
Well,
So I appreciate your comments, Don. I do, and we will take a look at trying to baby step this in.
all right, so then staff's going to work with Nick and see how that 50 might work. We'll go from there. Okay.
Great, thank
Yeah,
you.
we'll reduce it and then we'll work with dining services.
Or give us a couple of options. So, okay, so we could do, number 5 clamshells instead of the number 6, or we could do coffee cups or plates, or, give us kind of a breakdown on that. That would be appreciated. Thank you all for your comments. Joy.
Okay, so our next item is extended producer responsibility for packaging and paper products. This item, we have Walter Willis here from the Solid Waste Agency of Lake County. He also sits on the National Product Stewardship Institute board. This is an initiative that we're starting to talk about in the state of Illinois. Walter is putting together a team of counties, solid waste agencies, and hopefully cities to participate in this. It would eventually end in legislation. Hopefully, we're talking 2022. The point of the extended producer responsibility is that the manufacturer and producer are paying, and it comes off the burden of the resident. But Walter can talk a little bit more about the details of EPR and the sustainability results that it obtains for us.
Sure, come on over, Walter. We've got to get you in camera ready.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Walter Willis with the Solid Waste Agency of Lake County. We were formed in 1991, 43 municipalities and the county. So Lake County is a member as well. And before I jump into this on the cafeteria issue, we're doing the same thing right now. We're actually hiring a consultant to help us create a matrix to decide what we can get out and in, because we don't want to pay for fancy garbage. If it ends up in the landfill anyway, what are we doing? So I will share that information once we do those studies. That might be helpful for you guys.
Most appreciate
Because
that.
we're like, it's not an easy thing to tackle. So just wanted to say that. But like Joyce said, what we're trying to do right now, now that Maine and Oregon, soon to be signed by their governor, have passed for the first time extended producer responsibility legislation for basically packaging products and paper. What that really means is it will shift the cost of curbside recycling and drop-off recycling from the ratepayer or government to the brand owners, the people that you're buying your grocery products from. They will have to start funding the programs. This is very prevalent in Canada and Europe. So this is something that international companies like Unilever, et cetera, who sell in the United States and Europe and Canada, they're used to these programs. And this tidal wave is not going away. When I first got into this, I didn't think we'd ever see product stewardship legislation on packaging and shift the cost of our curbside recycling to the brand owners and directly the consumer at the end of the day. But it's here mainly because the China sword disrupted our recycling. We need to find a better way to run our programs. We could constantly have brand owners putting packaging into our waste stream that we can't recycle, and we're so confused about we don't know what to do. So the only way to do that is to bring the manufacturers into the loop and make them responsible. Design for the environment, design for recyclability. Those are big things that we're looking for. So to me, it's a real game changer. And what I'm trying to do is get local governments and mainly municipal government and county government to see the wisdom of this type of legislation. It can bring us programs where we have more uniformity. We would probably put different types of components into the legislation, which would require performance standards be met. So we don't want to just have our programs just, not progress and get better. For example, Vancouver, British Columbia has legislation like this. They recover 85% of the packaging. We're under 50. So it's proven that it works. The other thing we need to do, we'll see in this legislation, is recycled content requirements. So if you're going to make a plastic bottle and sell it in the market, you would have a requirement to have that meet a certain percentage. Coke and Pepsi and all these are doing it on their own on a voluntary matter. They're making good progress. But that's another way to make sure we have strong markets for our MRF operators, the recycling plants. For example, we spend between $15 and $17 million a year in Lake County on our curbside recycling programs. That would be shifted and taken away. That would no longer be a cost for the residents. So theoretically, your bill would go down about $6 to $7 household a month. And what I would be looking to do is plug in food scrap programs, get the third card in there and take that savings to get the third card program going more and more. That's just me, but the savings are significant. So we're talking to the city of Chicago right now. They spend about $20 million a year in their curbside program. That would be shifted off their ledger. So the city, I have 43 municipalities. Swank is another agency like ours, about 20 municipalities. West Cook, and DuPage County, we're trying to build this core team because it's really government on behalf of the residents that, are seeing the greatest benefit of this type of legislation. So from there, we would reach out to the environmental community, and they're already supportive, they're aware of these. We start building our coalition, the Retail Merchants Association. We've had informal talks with them as well. So my agency is very active in Springfield. We have a lobbyist, so we are ready to get a bill developed through this process and file a bill. Not expecting it to go anywhere in 2022, but a couple of years down the road, and then it takes several years for these programs to be implemented. Because the waste industry is somewhat neutral right now in the other two states, mainly because they're seeing the writing on the wall. This is going to be the paradigm shift in their industry. So they're actually getting involved in these stewardship organizations that have to run the programs because we want to use their infrastructure. We don't want to recreate the wheel. So I'm starting outreach with the waste industry. They know this is coming. So we hope to get a really good stakeholder group, build consensus, and through that process, we don't want to ram anything through without building that stakeholder consensus. So if you decide to fund this proposal that we got from Product Stewardship Institute to help us get there, you have a seat at the table, and we can grow the consensus that we need to make sure we have a bill that we can pass in Springfield. So that would be our goal. Yeah, I guess I'll take it for questions. I kind of went back quick there, but it's a real changer. And for statewide, we've got 60 counties in our state that probably have very little, if any recycling programs. They would get recycled downstate. So this is a statewide benefit. Places that don't have recycling, that don't have the funding, would get programs. So it's a real change for the way we manage our waste in Illinois if we can get it done.
Questions, anybody?
How will we balance the cost of that between the other counties? You're mentioning that other counties don't have any sort of recycling. So my fear is what often happens with DuPage is, I'll just give you an example that I'm aware of through economic development, is we put in like $21 million into the pot for the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and we get $1 million back because of Springfield legislation. My fear is that DuPage already has a recycling program. We've put some investment into that. Then we're also going to be paying to set up all these programs in other counties, which I know creates a good for the whole, but oftentimes we end up, paying for that. How
So,
will that balance?
Yeah, that's a good question. It kind of gets to the fundamentals of how it's funded. It's funded by the brand owners. They have to figure out what it's going to cost them. So DuPage County's programs stay as they are. And most municipalities, since I represent mostly municipal government, they will probably just want to get reimbursed for that and have the stewardship group over here, the brand owners would pay that part of the bill. The residents wouldn't pay anymore. This group over here would pay the bill. And they're getting their money through when you go to the store and buy products. In theory, they're going to charge a little more to cover that cost that they're now incurring. So really, there's no relationship between the two. You're still going to have your programs. You still have performance goals in the statute saying your programs need to get better. And they need to help you do that. And they need to help you fund the education effort to do that. That's all part of it. And then they're going to have to find within that pool of money as well, a way to get programs downstate that don't have them. Will they have robust programs in curbside? Probably not. Rural areas don't really need it. They need drop-offs. So they're not as expensive. So in theory, there's no shifting of the money from you to someone else. The only way the brand owners are funding that is through your purchase of products.
Can you please speak to the education that will be involved? Because if these are communities and areas that have never had recycling, can you explain how we're going to make sure that they can, sort of hit the ground running and utilize it, maximize the benefits of recycling from day one?
So a key part of that legislation would be that the requirement for education would be on the stewardship entity. And then they would have to develop a program that would be sensitive to people that are recycling and then those that are not. So really the burden would be on them. And the Illinois EPA kind of has an oversight role to make sure that the law gets implemented. So we have to have specific language in the statute about education, what the expectation was. But the hope is that we become more uniform with our message so that people, wherever they are in the state, they kind of know what is recycled and is not. And we're getting there slowly, but so education to me would either be a reimbursement model where we would do it locally and then ask for the money to be reimbursed, or just say, hey, bring us your program, we'll just use your program. So there'd be that option.
Okay.
That's the way I envision it.
Okay, thank you.
So we brought it to the committee today to introduce you to the concept. We've talked internally. We'd like to participate in this team. We are looking at our budget to see, how much we can contribute so that we can have a seat at the table. But we did want to talk to the community to see if this is something that you thought it was time well spent, and that you would be supportive of, because when legislation is eventually introduced, we're going to have to bring it back to committee, environmental legislative to, for support.
And how much is the cost to join or to participate?
Well, we got a proposal that I'll be able to get to Joy, hopefully by the end of the week, from Product Stewardship Institute. It's $50,000. Right now, my agency in Swank in Chicago are reaching that we're going to contribute 10 to 15 a piece. And so I'm looking for, whatever DuPage County, in the 3 to 6, I think we talked, reaching out to Aurora. I work with the city of Aurora, so I know the administration. I'll talking to Alex right now about whether Aurora wants to jump in, because there would be a huge cost shift for them. from their budget to, you know, the brand owners. So we're trying to build that and then get the COGS involved, the council's government ultimately, and just let municipal government know what this can mean for them and their residents.
So basically we're gonna step up and put that 10 to 15, or I'm sorry, 10 to 50,000 in, but ultimately it's going to save us on whatever our recycling, and that's a question for you, Joy.
Are we
Right, well,
gonna
Walter
say
says-
participating, and that would be impacting the cost, no, or contribution or not?
So ultimately, PSC, PSI are trying to raise 50. Other folks are coming up with, it sounds like 30 to.
And
30
we've
to
got 30
40.
to 40 committed right now with the city of Chicago, my agency, a similar agency in Northern Cook County, and then I'm talking to West Cook County as well. They're another solid waste agency. But for the counties and others, I'm looking for less. You know, we're in because it's a game changer in my opinion.
Agree.
So you're gonna report back to us later on what the progress is that what we're looking?
Yep, I will, you know, if the committee decides that this is something you want us to pursue, absolutely, we can bring back quarterly reports. This is where the team is at. You know, we've had discussions with, there are stakeholders, as you know, manufacturers, producers, you know, that we are going to have to talk with and make some tough decisions.
So I'll get the proposal and that kind of lays out the timeline, but we want to kind of get a kickoff call next month if possible. So it's kind of moving fast because then we have to go through and develop the bill by going through a very strategic process, building consensus as we go. So it'll take us until the end of the year to get a bill draft. That's the timeline we're on, and find sponsors.
Questions or comments?
I'm interested in your comment where you said this is a game changer. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I mean, when you can shift the costs, that kind of significant cost, and more importantly, get the manufacturers of these products and the packaging thinking about, oh, if I'm going to make a package that we can't recycle, there's also what's put in this legislation is eco-modulated fee. If you want to put beer in an aluminum can, maybe you get charged a penny for that can to help recycle it. If you want to put beer in a glass bottle with a ceramic top on it, that's a lot harder to recycle. You're probably going to pay 5 or 6 cents into the kitty for everybody's sake, right? You decide as the brand owner whether you want to do that or not. And so that's the way it works in Europe and Canada. You modulate the fee, you incentivize them, make something we can recycle.
Got it. So you
so
mean not just financially, but culturally, it can be a
Yes.
game changer because it can change the way
So-
people think and approach and do business. That's, I think, to me, the most interesting part of this.
It's a win-win.
Because, right, because then we're talking about not a, just a financial impact, but we're talking about a cultural shift
Yes.
that we would start now and that would keep going.
I like to
Correct.
call it, you know, EPR, extended producer responsibility, is legislation, but it creates the circular economy. We have a linear economy. We make a product,
Right.
we use it, we throw it away.
Right.
Now we have to think about, make a product, oh, make it recyclable, make it reusable, make it fixable.
Mhm.
All that stuff creates a circular economy. We're dedicated to that concept. That circular economy concept is a sustainable way to keep, you know, stay on this planet.
Yeah,
Be
I
here
like
for many, many
that.
years. So
Thank you. That is exactly the explanation I was looking for. Thanks.
sorry, I missed the big picture on that.
No,
It is a real shift for
Thanks.
everybody in the supply chain.
Thank you so much, Walter. Oh, I'm sorry. Amy,
I'm
go
in
ahead.
favor. I just wanted to say that I'm in favor. I think DuPage County should have a seat at the table.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Everybody else feel that
Yeah, we
way,
have
and
to.
Joy, and obviously you'll come back with a proposal and we can talk about that at
Yeah, I'll
our
send it
next
to-
month's meeting, but
Yeah.
I think the general consensus here is that this is a good way forward to change the minds of, you know, recycling, because we have so many challenges with that right now. So
All right.
Walter, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just a quick, our item C on the discussion is the helium balloon release. Oh geez, I gave a presentation to Animal Services last year about helium balloons. They're pretty litter. They go up, nobody knows where they come down. They impact wildlife. Most of them come down in the Great Lakes. Helium is a non-renewable source. I had an MRI in the last couple of weeks. That's where they use helium, and it is not something that regenerates itself. The reason I put it on here is once a week I see tributes or news stories on the local news that show people releasing balloons in the air, and it makes me crazy. So I've talked with Joan. We are going to try to put together a educational outlook to this and maybe feed it to the news stations as an educational idea. I've been talking with Mark Ayers with the Humane Society of Illinois or US. So at the state level, it passed through the House, but got held up in the Senate, never got picked up. So I don't want to see this issue die. And so just putting it out there that that's something that we're going to be talking about. Next on our agenda is a presentation by Scares.
Hi, everybody. I knew it was a busy day, so it's just really, really short. There we go. So with COVID, of course, a lot of things got held up, but Elmhurst Library has done a spectacular job on reusing. Their Earning Their Earth flag was delayed because of no meetings, so their meeting will be coming up in September. But they have one of the best lending libraries I have ever seen. So if you want to make waffles, you can check out a waffle can. If you want to try cooking with a wok, you can check out a wok. There are drills to check out. There are sewing machines to check out. Not only do they have the checkout, okay, but if you see in that bottom picture there, they have all kinds of tools with how to use them that you can use right there with the right kinds of tables. We have several libraries that have some lending libraries, but this is extraordinary what they are doing there. They're very, very proud of it. And I'm hoping that when we go for their Earth Flag ceremony, I'm going to request from Marcy, if we get there a little bit early before their meeting, if we can go and check out the lending library. You guys, it was the basement. And now it is bright, and it is well, before COVID, it was used a great, great deal, but you would not believe the table saws and the things that they have that you could try it out, learn how to use it, say, oh, is this something I would have at home? Or, right, so it is just spectacular. So their makerspace, they get a lot of stuff from us from the makerspace. You know, businesses give us wheels and cardboard tubes and all kinds of things, and they take that for their makerspace. So Walter and I just finished serving on the Illinois Materials Management Advisory something. And he was chair of one committee. I was chair of the Outreach and Education Committee statewide. So that was pretty cool, but reusing is way more important. And when we're talking about extender, you know, production responsibility, if people don't buy some of this stuff, there's less to recycle. You save money, we save resources, we reduce pollution, you know, so these are the kinds of things. Right now we have somebody calling different libraries in our county to see, I know of 3 that have lender library kinds of things, but this one is the most extensive. So something really that we can push with other libraries. At Scarce, we have lots of things that people can borrow from us, but this is just incredible. Their puzzle section is on the main floor. Games, you know, so Monopoly and whatever. It is really, I hope everybody can come and see it sometime. But so they're earning their Earth Flag, so we're grateful for that. Go ahead. So our pumpkin smash, you know, we started, I think, 7 years ago now. So as Walter said, the city of Chicago, they have a big plan for the rest of 2021, and they'll be doing the pumpkin smash. But Itasca and Lombard have already notified us this year that they will be joining the pumpkin project. So we're glad about that. This is all about teaching people about food scrap composting. So no contaminants, no candles, no yarn hair, no plastic ears kind of thing. And this is what businesses end up saving money. I mean, when we can get businesses, you know, the Northern Illinois Food Bank, if you have not been on a tour there to see their compost operation, fabulous. So this is a way to save money, to reduce the methane that's going into the environment. Methane is much more dangerous to our atmosphere than CO2. So when we reduce our methane, and some studies, it's 25 to 86% worse as it contributes to climate change, methane gases, than CO2. So when we want to make a benefit, when we want to take action, this is really a great way to take action. And since we moved to Addison last year during the pandemic, we now have it in Addison. So, it's growing, and it's a fun way to teach people about the importance of food scrap composting. Our cities are growing more and more, adding it to their contracts. So we're grateful for that. And then just on a side note, I was talking a little bit ahead of time. I'm in the City of Wheaton's Environmental Commission for 40 years last month, golly. And we bought a bulb eater from AirCycle that was in Lisle, a company based in Lisle. They moved to North Aurora, I believe. It's a machine to crush up bulbs, keep the mercury inside, recycle the glass, and recycle the aluminum. We have it the second Saturday of every month in Wheaton. Addison Park District bought one, and we used to hold 2 events there a year with Jerry at the recycling events to help people get those fluorescent bulbs and keep them out of the environment. So ours, after 7 years now, has broken. So our commission is kind of out of money, but we're going to buy it somehow. And hopefully before the August meeting that we have, our second Saturday of the month. But you guys, this is citizens, not-for-profits come the second Saturday of every month. This has been open. We've never said no. We've never limited it to Wheaton people. It is a huge, huge way to reduce the mercury. And if you think CO2 is toxic, mercury is really, really toxic. So this has just been a great benefit. I really wish every city had one and could offer this to people as a way to reduce the mercury, protect the citizens, protect the environment, right? Protect our water. It's a great benefit. So, and if you haven't been to our recycling new site yet, who am I looking at?
I drive past it every day, your place. That's where I come to go home.
Yeah,
so-
come on in. Come on in, you guys.
Stop in.
Paula's been there, Sheila's been there. So come and see it, because the teachers right now and the reuse, but our education center is now so gorgeous. We're really, really proud of it. And it's a way to reduce. We work more on reducing than we do on recycling, you guys. That is just way more important for reducing than reusing. Saves the most money. And I think it's always important to know that when you're talking about setting up a recycling program or a reduction program, there's savings in reducing your garbage. You have less garbage when you're using reusables. And a lot of times when we work with restaurants and hotels and businesses, they forget to include that number of how much less garbage they have. Because you kind of pay for stuff twice. You pay for it when you buy it, and you pay for it when you dispose of it, or you pay to recycle it, right? So if you have reusables, Villa Park School District, I think we saved them $80,000 a year when we set up reusable dishes, dishwashers, and carts to transport them to the schools. $80,000 for a school district that's ongoing. I think that program's 12 years old. So we reduced their garbage the first year by $17,000. So reusable, we can take care of the environment and have reusables. We just have to look at all parts of the equation. So thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Kay.
Okay.
Always a pleasure to have you here. Do we have any old business? Any new business? Without objection, we're adjourned.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Whoops, I'm sorry.